Hi, everybody. I am Holly Celiano, and today I have a very special guest on Mr. X. He's going to go by an anonymous name and remain incognito because of the nature of what we're talking about today, and that is to protect him and all involved in this. And if you are new to this channel, please hit like and subscribe and share this channel so we can get the word out. So today we are talking about, as you have told me, the correct pronunciation is not Nesara, it's Nesara. And I know Nesara has been a folklore in many of these communities and for decades. Most people don't even believe it exists. There's no proof of it because anybody involved in this has been under such strict gagged orders, and they've also had loss of life because of the nature of this. So, first of all, thank you for joining us. This is part one of many parts we're going to be doing, and welcome to the show today.
Oh, Holly, thank you very much. I'm truly honored to be part of your program.
Thank you.
Uh, I've followed you for years, and it's nice to go to someone with intel in the RV world and other that you can put faith and trust that it's accurate.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So, with that being said, this has been an absolute folklore that it exists. So, can you go and tell the audience that it is real, that it does exist? You've been part of it, and give some history on it.
Yes, I'd like to start off by saying, though, I'd like to preface my remarks that Donna Brazil did not give me questions ahead of time to where I could study up on them. And we'll get into this. Nesra is real. Um, it was started in there's a debate on the actual time set of it, but I came about into the Nesra deal in the early 90s, and it came from a cabal bank in Colorado that tried to take a farm from a CIA agent's father. And that's when I got involved in it.
Wow. And so it came from a CIA agent. Was he the one that originated how this would come to be, or what happened?
Well, the agent once that case against a corrupt cabal bank went to the Colorado Supreme Court, and then it left the Supreme Court, went to the Supreme Court. The agent supplied the court with tons of evidence that our banking system was fraudulent, corrupt, and illegal. That's
Wow.
his only involvement in it. He did not set up this thing called Nesra. He just gave the Supreme Court the evidence back in the early 90s so they could look at it themselves. And so his father inevitably could get his farm back.
Okay, so this had nothing to do with the farm claims. This is a completely separate issue than the farm claims.
Yeah, this is separate issue than the farm claims, separate issue than the Indian claims. It's totally different, but all linked to the Nesra protocols.
Which basically is saying that our banking system and legal system is corrupt. The way that the money is handled in the United States and globally is a criminal organization. And this is undoing all of that, correct?
Yes, it's in there's 26 protocols to Nesra. The public's only seen 19 of them. The other seven have been remained hidden because once people find out about that, it's a game changer. Well, the whole Nesra protocols are a game changer, but they've hidden the last seven for a reason. And it will become apparent once Nesara fully gets implemented and people will know why.
And the ones that most people are familiar with that we've heard about is the wiping out of all mortgages, of all credit card debt, of all student loans, of any car loans. All of that will be wiped out under Nesara, correct?
Yeah, the one that's been submitted to the public of the 19, number one is always the wiping out of debt. I've gone on social media for years, spreading the word. Don't focus on number one. That's the least of the 26. Number one only helps you. Um, Matter of fact, 3 years ago, I was on Brent Johnson's show and I was a call in guest and I brought that up. I said, people do not focus on number one. We know Nesser is being rolled out. Do not go sign up for these fraudulent credit cards and run up a bill thinking that Nesser is going to wipe that bill out. That's called gaming the system. That will not be allowed by the people who control the protocols of Nesra. You will be liable for all those debts because you gamed the system. But
Mhm.
yes, the school loans, past car loans, mortgages, loans through a bank, because banks fraudulently, excuse me, banks fraudulently loan money to people. It's called fractional banking.
Mhm. Which a lot of people are not familiar with, but that's a whole nother story in and of itself to go into the banking thing, how that's all been done. But it's really a Ponzi scheme that came about in 1913 with the Federal Reserve, which is not a federal agency. Most people think it is, but it is not. It was put in place by 13 families. And that is what we have done our banking system on in the government. But that money, as you know, does not go, we pay our taxes to it, but it doesn't go to our government. There's the Washington, D.C., there's the Vatican, and there is the City of London. Those are the three that are all tied together, which are being undone.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm glad you brought that up about the Federal Reserve. It's also part of this big con with the FBI and the IRS, which are headquartered. A lot of people don't know this. They're headquartered out of Puerto Rico. Now, why would the FBI and the IRS be headquartered outside this country on an island? Because one, that they're not legal, they're not legit. It's all fraud. The IRS they have not been okayed to uh, monitor any American citizen in this country for their taxes. That's all part of the cabal banking system. They are the thugs. They just like the case in Utah right now. Um, we're watching those poor people. Uh, they own their home. They went to court, a tax court in Utah. They owed no money to the IRS, but they bring in a SWAT team, a bunch of goons with automatic weapons, and then throw them in jail and take their house and sell all their possessions. That's the corruptness of the IRS, which is not a federal institution. They are a private military group enforcing non-existent tax laws. I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you, Holly.
You're welcome. Well, that is going to be undone with the Nesera. They will no longer be in existence, correct?
Yes, that they all go bye-bye.
So we will not be paying federal taxes, correct?
Well, it's changed over the years. I've heard it both ways over the years. I don't know about federal. We shouldn't, but I have heard recently that we are going to stay with the with the 14% tax on new goods only.
Mhm.
Um, that's going to remain, but the federal, I don't know. But all the state taxes and income taxes should go away. Yes.
Correct. I've heard that as well. So why don't you tell everybody how you got involved in this going back, I think it is early 90s, and how you were approached to be part of this?
Well, it's kind of hard to nail down, but I was with a couple other agencies, and I got a phone call one night, and I got invited. I think it wasn't an invitation. I think they had already vetted me, and they asked me if I wanted to be part of the White Knights. And who are the White Knights? Well, those are the guys who fight for the implementation of Nesara to everybody in this country. And that's how I got involved. And when I got involved, it was going through the Supreme Court there in Colorado, and that's when I got involved.
So the White Knights are part of ONI, which will you explain to the listeners what that is?
Office of Naval Intelligence.
So
And
White
there's
Knight, go
yeah,
ahead.
and there's some very famous people right now that are still out there who are with ONI, and they do podcast. So I'm not talking about something that doesn't exist.
So white knights are different than the white hats because I know people get very confused on what white knights are, what white hats are. Are they one and up the same? Would you explain that?
Okay, good question, Holly. Thank you. That what I explain to people is a white hat who is someone who has high morals, principles, and integrity, and they want to do the right thing when the right thing is the most hardest thing to do. They don't cut a corner, they don't take a bribe, they don't do anything under the table to get by or sneak something in. That's a white hat. Um, that's different than the white knights. White knights are that's they're the group who work with Oni.
So they're basically an organization that have come together for the betterment of humanity, basically in the United States, to free us from this debt slavery that we have all been subjected to, correct?
That is correct, and I think it all started with JFK Senior before he was quote, and I'll say in quotations, assassinated.
Right.
Um, I think that organization was started under his watch because he was planning and trying to take down the Fed
Mhm.
during his first term as a president.
Right. And we know what happened to him because anybody that goes against this large organization, which they've been in control for a very long time, they do away with you. They don't want you to do away with what they've been doing.
Absolutely, the Rothschilds and Rockefellers, those folks, they're elites. They've got power and they like to wield it in nefarious ways. It's just not a good thing.
Right. So you got involved, you were asked, vetted, and got involved. And then what was your involvement in that for having Nesara come into existence?
Well, they knew who I was before I came in. I'm a point and shoot guy. Um, I'm boots on the ground. I'm not afraid to take take the bullets, duck the bullets, shoot the bullets, do anything I can against the bad people out there trying to stop Nesra, and that's what I did.
Okay. So you were basically an enactor or protector of having this come into existence.
Yes, against all these evil people who have been fighting Nesra for years.
Okay. So how long did it take from once this idea was penned on paper and then passed into law? How long did that take?
Well, when the Supreme Court took it up and they received all that evidence, they ruled on it, and that was in 1994.
Okay.
It may have lingered into 95 a little bit, but my memory goes back to 94. That's when the Supreme Court looked at it and said, "Oh my gosh, what have we stumbled on upon? If the American people ever find out about this, they are going to go mob style on everything." So I understand where they came from, but it's got to get out to the people. I'll
Right.
say that.
So it was passed by the Supreme Court, and was it
Mhm.
ultimately passed by Congress?
Yes. In March of 2000, according to Nesara protocols, because in Nesara protocols, there's 26 protocols or laws, if you want to use a slang term. You have to abide by those laws to enact or be part of Nesara. And in those laws, no one who holds public office in this country can hold a bar card. So we went in there and we found 15, um, 15 Congress people who did not hold a bar card who could legally vote on Nesara.
Wow.
And we got it before, got it. We took them into chambers. They voted on it, passed it, and then the bill wound its way on Bill Clinton's desk.
So out of all the, what is it, 488, I think it is, Senate and Congress members, roughly, there was only 15 that are legit to be holding office.
Yes, back then, that was the number we came up with. If you were to look at it today, I think that that percentage would be greater because all those clowns in DC have a bar card.
Right.
And part of the Nesara protocols, we go back to the original 13th Amendment, and that's huge. In the 13th Amendment, some say it wasn't ratified, others say it was. But if it wasn't ratified, why are parts of the original 13th Amendment in the Constitution today?
Right.
So I say it's ratified. That's all my studying on it. It's ratified. No person who can hold public office in this country that has a bar card. And this was done back in 1776 set through 1791. If those people back then, our forefathers back then, knew that these bar clowns were a problem, wouldn't they still be a problem today?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Well, for the people that are not aware, what is BAR stand for and who are they taking an allegiance to?
Okay, I'm glad you asked that question. Thank you, Holly. The bar stands for British Accreditation Registry. You'll wonder why you walk into every court in this country and you'll find a gold fringed flag behind that clown up on that podium who wears a long black dress because he's a bar clown also. He has a bar card. Um,
So they are
and
not conducting any legal services on behalf of the American people. It is for the British, for the crown.
yes, they work for the British. A court is actually looked at as a bank.
Right.
That clown up there in the black dress is a banker. The money that court brings in, a percentage of it goes back to England. It does not stay in this country. Just like when people fill out their 10W-40 form and send it into the IRS, that is a payment to the Queen of England for gratitude that you can live in America and still pay her money.
And here everybody thought that we went to war and we separated from England, but we really haven't.
Yeah, everybody thinks we won the war with the British, but no,
Right.
they didn't. We did not win that war. They, to this day, 2024, they are still, it's not, it's 2024. When was that war? 100 years ago, 200 years ago?
Over
That's
200.
still, yeah, that's war is still being fought, and we've lost that war with the British because all these courts we have in this country are are supporting the bar.
Mm.
And all the money brought in by these courts that are actually called banks goes back to England.
You think of how much money is collected with all the court fees and the penalties you have to pay every time you go to court. It's absurd the amount of money they collect on a daily basis around this country.
Oh yeah, it's high treason.
Mhm.
It's high treason. People think, uh, people need to research history a little bit better. Now find out that the British troops stayed here 20 years after that war. Well, what did they do during that time? They sent groups of armed men around house to house to collect tax money.
Mm.
Where'd that come from?
Right.
Well, it came from the British Accreditation Registry because they infiltrated our courts and put all these nefarious laws to steal from the American people and get back to Britain.
And this is exactly what our forefathers were fighting against to not have this. And all that they did to have us be free from England is
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
all undone.
Yeah, absolutely. Thomas Jefferson is rolling in his grave right now if he saw what we've allowed to have happen for over 200 years.
Yes. Yes. Because they knew signing that Declaration of Independence was a death sentence, not only for themselves, but for their families. And I've read stories they were terrified to sign that because they knew going against England and being part of that was a death sentence. But they did sign it because they knew it was the right thing and they wanted to be free from England. And here we
Yes, they,
are.
yes,
We're still part of it.
yes. And it has to end soon. It
Yes,
really does.
I agree. So with that, Nesara ends all of that, correct?
Yes, absolutely. Once the 25 or 26 protocols of Nesara come out to the public view, the public will finally see how much it fixes America and makes America great again. Because we ain't great right now.
No, no, we're not. We're going in a downward spiral at a really fast pace. And, I know you're out doing what you're doing, and I'm doing what I'm doing because if we don't have a voice and stand up for future generations now, they're doomed.
Yeah, yeah, America, you might as well throw up a communist flag and have that fly over the Capitol because that's what we could become.
Yeah. So, you know what? We're the last stand right now to stand up and say this needs to end. We need to go back to what our forefathers wanted for this country. We have the remedy, which is Nesara. It just needs to be rolled out, and all of this will end. The suffering of humanity will end. There is so much abundance on this planet that it needs to be rolled out for everybody. The hidden technologies that have been kept from us, everything, this banking system, it's time.
Nesra is a game changer. It fixes this whole country and solves all of its problems. But there's been a lot over the years of evil, disgusting, corrupt people fighting for this to come about because their world ends. And
They
that's
don't
what
want to
they're,
give up. They don't
pardon?
want that to end.
No, no, they do not want their world to end. They want it the same as it is now and the same as it has been for years. They don't care about us, we the people. It's
No.
all about them.
So why has Nesara not been, since it's signed into law, it's passed every year by Congress? Why is it not, if it's passed every year, why don't we have it across the board?
Because there's too many evil, corrupt, disgusting people out there putting a kibosh on the rollout of Nesra and have been for years. Because, like I said, that when this thing comes out, their world ceases,
Mhm.
and to a lot of them, their life might cease.
Well, I pray to God that this does happen in the very near future because I know for you, having worked on this since the 90s, and here we are still in 2024, and it's not come to be, it's got to be so discouraging for you.
Holly, I wake up every morning and fight like hell not to go postal.
I can imagine, seriously, because it should have been done. I mean, you've done everything to have this happen. It's passed. You have a Supreme Court order. Congress passed it. It was signed by the president at the time, which we'll go into in part two. Um, and here we are. And for you working on this and all the other people that have worked on it, and it's still not rolled out, and that's the remedy to end this. It's criminal that this has gone on so long.
High treason. It's high treason.
Mhm.
And, according to the American law, the way it's written now, if you commit high treason during a state of emergency, which is, quote, in a state of war, and we have been since '01, nobody's taken that off the books. The death death is the remedy for anyone caught in treason.
Wow.
So
So have other presidents been asked back through the years, because we know Bill Clinton signed this, which we'll talk about in part two, but were the other presidents asked to sign this, and what happened with that?
a very good question. Thank you, Holly. You can go back as far as probably Carter. Carter, he was a useful idiot. When Reagan became in, Reagan worked with Leo Wanta.
Mhm.
He was a intelligence guy, and he had a specific mission for Leo Wanta. There's a podcaster out there now who worked with Leo Wanta on the mission that Reagan gave him, and it was it was called the Wanta Reagan funds. They got back a lot of money, and over the years, those monies have been stolen by black hats, deep state, evil cabal. Um, so Reagan had his deal, but not necessarily the Nesra end of it. George Bush Sr. Now he did everything he could to fight Nesra, and George Bush Sr. came out with all this garbage on the interweb about Nesara, where you replace the E with the A, and he was pushing disinformation about Nesara. So that was his involvement. And then we roll past Bill Clinton, um, and we got his involvement on October 10th, 2000. But we all know what happened on September 11th, 2001. Well, the word is Bush Sr. moved back in to the White House to help Junior stop Nesara rollout. And we all know what happened on that day.
Right. So there are, and I'm glad you brought up this point. So the deep state has come out with disinformation on this because if you look, I believe it's one is the National Economic Stabilization and Recovery Act, and they have their own version where they've mixed up words and then put out disinformation on it. So it's always been this very eluded mystery whether it really does exist because there's been such strict gag orders for anybody involved in this. And you had a very strict NDA, which has expired, which is why you can talk about this now, though there are other people that are still part of that have gag orders that can't talk about it. I know people are going to say, well, why are you, if it's been such a strong gag order and people have died over this, why are you talking about this today?
Yeah, I'm no longer under an NDA. It expired years ago. Even when I was under an NDA, I was trying to get the information out to people so they could learn the truth that it was there. The remedy was out there to fix this country and benefit the people. So, yeah, but that's why I'm talking about it now.
Right. And, it's frustrating it's not been enacted. What is it that we can do to have this finally be rolled out instead of being in this stalemate?
Well, that's a good question, Holly. I think the best thing people can do is let those in charge. We're left to think now that since Q started in 17, that the Q team is running this shit show called the plan. You just People just need to go out and voice, be heard. Q said, be loud. Don't whisper. Be loud about it. Tell them you want Nesra now. Roll it out.
Who do we
Fix
tell?
this.
Who do we tell? Who do we go to?
That's a good question. Who are the white hats in the military? Because this devolution plan that they say we're under.
Mhm.
Uh, who can you tell? I mean, they should be busy as all get out trying to correct this country from going down the toilet like it is now. So I don't know who you could tell, but just get it out there in public so they do look at social media. They do read comments. They want to get a feel for where the public is. So
Well,
get out there in social media and make your voice heard.
all I can say is we, the people that have been involved in this for a very long time, are tired. We're suffering. We want our voices heard. We know what is coming for humanity. We're involved in all these rooms. We know the hidden technologies. We know Nesara exists, and it's past time to roll this out. So, we the people want our voices heard. We want to have this remedy put in place. So thank you
Absolutely.
for coming out to speak on behalf of it because most people don't even believe it exists. And you having the guts to come out, which I'm sure you're going to face, criticism and heat for doing what you're doing. But we need to get the word out there. There is unity in people. They've always done a divide and conquer, but there's masses when we all stand together, united as one, that they can't defeat us. And that's what we need to do. We need to come together as one in unity for the betterment of humanity for future generations.
Well said, Holly. Well said.
So, with that, we will continue with part 2 and 3 and 4 on this subject, which I am just ever so grateful to be talking to you to bring the truth out that this does exist. We do have the remedy. We, the people, need to stand together, be united, be heard, and as you said, be loud. So thank you again for coming on and being brave enough to tell your story.
My pleasure, Holly. You're the one of the only people I'd place this interview with. There's people out there not knowing what they're talking about when it comes to Nesara.
Thank you. I'm honored that you would be on with me. So I appreciate you and applaud you for your service and for what you've done and all the white knights and the white hats and everybody working to undo the this evil that's kind of plagued this world. I applaud you. We, the people, stand behind you, and we are there to support you in any way we can. And it's time, it's past time. So
Well,
thank
thank you,
you.
ma'am. No,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
I will
Thank
see
you.
you on part two.
I look forward to it.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.